Welcome to Chew the Fat. In this series, I sit down with high-performance guests and we talk about life, business, and what it takes to be at the top. This is part of my mission to raise $1 million for charity by writing a cookbook called Eat with Purpose. But I'm going to need your help. If you can share the content and leave a review, it's going to make a massive impact. And the bigger the audience, the greater the reach, and the sooner we can get to that $1 million goal. Enjoy the episode. So, just a little chili scramble, bit of avocado on top, and some goat's cheese. Get stuck in. Are you a breakfast man?
No, I actually don't have breakfast.
Yeah, you're usually a faster? Yeah, same.
But if I'm at a cafe and it's that good, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Sunday, I'll cheat a little bit. I love how you can just talking. You did this before, and you just whip up these literally Michelin class star meals.
Dan Anisse, co-founder of Relume. Welcome to Chew the Fat.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Frank. Excited to be here.
So where I'd love to start for everybody is just give us a little snapshot. What is Relume?
So Relume is an AI website designer platform which allows agencies and teams to essentially generate websites using prompts, which is easily exported out to their favorite platforms like Figma and Webflow.
And what's the problem it's trying to solve?
Well, essentially, right now, the UX stage in the website design process takes time. And I think where we've been able to kind of intercept and do a good job at solving that problem is creating more efficiencies in that UX stage. So essentially, we're able to allow a designer to go from concept to actual wireframes in under 2 minutes, but not so much around, okay, cool, you built a website with just a prompt, but it's just getting that 80% there. So we're solving, I guess, the efficiency, so enabling efficiencies for that designer in that UX stage to then finalize that final 20%. So Relume gets you 80% there, and then that final 20% is where you can spend the most of your time on tweaking flows or tweaking design. But I think that's where we've been able to save agencies a significant amount of time and teams, internal teams, significant amount of time with one prompt.
Love that. And for all the punters out there who are unfamiliar with UX, that's user experience.
Correct. Yeah.
It's just helping us, our non-tech nerd audience, helping out. So give me a little bit of a contextual background. What was your upbringing? What drove you to become an entrepreneur at your age you are today?
I think really put it down to one thing, is sport. And sport to me is the fundamental base. It's my foundation, right, of how I think about everything, teams, being the performance, being the best version of myself. So I think that was the groundwork of why I probably most likely became entrepreneurial, because being in sport, you got to be very competitive because you want to freaking win. But you also have to work with other people in your team and understand the skill sets of everyone in your team. So I did that till I was 20.
What sport?
Rugby league.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's probably, for everyone out there, it's the best sport in Australia. But yeah, I played that until 20. And then after that, the natural transition for me was man, what do I want to do? This is I want that feeling again. I want to feel that rush again of being in a team, competing, building something, being the best version. So it honestly was the natural progression for me to get into, I guess, entrepreneurialism or selling stuff, because that was my vehicle for me to have those feelings again, to be able to do that. So it wasn't entrepreneurial because I wanted to, I guess, be rich or make money or be free. It was just more I wanted to use that energy. I had so much energy built up into me that I wasn't able to because I wasn't able to make it into the NRL, which is still something that I think about every single day. But I had so much built up energy, so I transitioned that into starting a business, and then that's what kind of gave me all my everything that I've kind of know from a fundamentals point of view.
So did you, from that transition to, sorry to rub it in, not get into the NRL, from the transition from that, did you start straight away, I'm going to build a business, or was there, a career in prior? What did that look like?
Yeah, I did the obligatory uni,
yeah,
university for my mum, which I love. And it was in that time, that's when I was getting really bored and was experimenting with other things to like play around with. So that's when I started the clothing business to see what it was like to sort of like actually sell something and see what the economics of that is besides reading about it.
Yeah.
So that's when I started to experiment a lot inside of uni, and then that clothing business became bigger than or more important to me than uni. And that's when I transitioned myself to just focus on that full time when I was about 21, 20, and just went deep dive into what was called Phoenix, which is my clothing empire.
Yeah, right.
For 3 years.
Yeah.
And then it crashed and burned.
Tell me more. Like, what did crash and burn look like? What were the lessons you learned?
So I learned quickly about building a brand.
Yep.
Distribution. So we built this really cool distribution model of having actual pop-up retail stores inside big shopping centers.
Okay.
So that enabled me to get quick, rapid distribution and actual shit ton of sales.
Yeah,
so
right.
It was pretty early on. I was like, oh man, like this is cool. Like if I can just intercept with a good product, because I was going for like the industry model. I was trying to replicate them because I was building it for myself or making the clothes for me.
Yep.
So yeah, I thought, okay, I'll replicate that, and then learn all about distribution, learn about sales. Sales came quickly because I nailed the price point and nailed where people could buy it.
Yeah.
But then from that, with that growth, became a lot of ambition to grow even more.
Yep.
And naturally, I was over ambitious and decided to invest heavily into China in a massive new range.
Yes.
It was my third or fourth collection.
Yeah.
And I learned quickly, you don't hedge all your bets into one factory.
Yeah.
You don't spend 80% of your cash savings into a new collection.
Wow.
Because inevitably that collection failed from China because they didn't get a few things right from the order, and they weren't going to release a stock. So that really just kind of like put Phoenix down on a downward trajectory because we had no new clothes coming in, means we couldn't bring in new stock into the stores, which meant no one was coming back to Phoenix.
Yep.
And then, eventually I had to, it was like we bled out very slowly, and I had to call it quits.
Some of the questions I've been getting recently on Instagram is like, when do I know to call it quits? And that when you've made those big bets as an entrepreneur and you do believe in yourself, the wrestle sometimes can be with, I don't want to give up, I don't want to be a failure. But the reality is sometimes, a lot of the times, it's actually making that decision is the right move. Like, was there a pivotal moment there? Was it a tough decision to go, I got to stop?
Yeah, it's devastating. It was like breaking up with a long-term girlfriend that you love so much. So it was, but I think the writing on the wall was just the cash and bank, right? Revenue, the classic revenue and cost.
Yeah.
And your revenue is this and your costs are this, and you start to eat into your cash savings, and you start to then develop a runway, and then you're like, okay, cool, we only got 5 months to live unless we do X, Y, Z, and we couldn't do those things. So we tried to do like a wholesale model where we were starting to like sell from a lookbook. So we had no stock, but if they like the lookbook, they'll go order 1,000 chinos based off the lookbook and the samples. We tried that, so there was no cash in, which could have like injected more cash into the business, but ultimately we weren't able to sell, and we had a certain period of time where we had to do that. And in that period of time, I set that goal, and we weren't able to sell off a lookbook, so that inevitably meant like we had no more revenue coming in for the business, no more opportunities to get more stock, which essentially meant we had to shut that down, which was objectively I just put a time on it and was just honest with myself to say, if we don't hit this milestone, I'm have to call it here. Otherwise, you have no money left.
Yeah, go bankrupt.
Exactly.
Bring me to that feeling. Like you said there, you're devastated. I can feel that. I can sense that. Like, did that feel in that moment like you're a failure?
Oh yeah. You feel like you because you're the crazy guy or that crazy one who's like, oh, he's doing his little clothing thing over there. He's like, oh, that's cute, and it goes well. So then you get a little bit of exposure, but then I don't know what it is, but like people's like, oh, like I told you that wasn't like you shouldn't be doing these type of things, Dan. Like it's not really good to like just stick to the path. So like you feel that type of emotion, which is not always, I guess, the best, but it's okay. Like you just learn from it. Like you just you're truly like built for this shit when you like you get told these things. You're like, no, I don't give. Like, I don't care. Like, this is mad. Like, I feel devastated.
Yeah.
But I was more alive than I have ever been in my whole life. Like, I guess I was trying to chase that footy feeling, right?
Yeah.
I was more alive than I was being in the center of that field, under 16s, in the middle of that battle. I was more alive being in that store, you know, counting like probably like 6K a month in rent, you know, 5K in wages, and I had to make 40K a month. Like that was being alive, man. You have no idea. So I wouldn't have traded that for anything. I think that's like again, I took that to be like the fundamentals of how I think about business today. And it was the best education that I could have ever got.
That's awesome. And I guess the idea there, you know, summarising that as a failure, really it's just like getting that first concussion in footy. You'll take a moment and you'll get back out there.
Get rattled. You got a 1 week off and you come back and you're ready to rip in again.
Love that. And how long was that process to rip in again? Like what did it take from there to then go, I'm going to go again?
Oh, it's probably like, I had probably about like a 3 to 5 month hiatus. I had to get money, so I had to get a job. I was lucky enough to have a friend who helped me in getting like a sales job at a coffee roaster. And I was selling beans. So that was a transition of like this to this. But I think I was lucky enough there to kind of like stabilize myself and kind of like come back to sort of like normal thinking, but quickly in that job or whatever I was doing there, I got really kind of bored and came up with this genius idea that I thought at the time was, okay, cool, you know, inventory was an issue. I got stuffed up on that. So why don't I just build this model that, you know, has no inventory and I can compare websites from 40 different websites like ASOS, The Iconic, and you could go on, compare a Nike shoe and get it from 5 different places and see the cheapest. So I was like, that's it, that's the idea. And I pitched it to a guy that I knew at my work, and that's when I went down the tech path. And that's when so about 6 months in, I kind of pitched that, got some funding, and I was like, okay, cool. I'm building now. It was like Phoenix Clothing. Now I'm building Phoenix Tech. And I'm building this comparison website, which is going to be used by millions of people. So I went down that path and kickstarted that, built a team, and then I think it was about 23 or 24. I started to then quickly learn a shitload about tech and like quickly because like, again, I came from clothing. It's not like I had any product background or like software product background. So I had to learn really quickly about what it's like. But that again was a great trajectory and I learned so much and we built up that team over 3 years into like a really solid comparison website business.
Well, how many team members?
We're about 8 at the time.
Yeah, awesome.
6, 8, yeah, about 8. We've raised more money.
Yeah.
So that's why I learned a lot about the capital raising.
Yep. Private equity?
It was more angel.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so we raised around like 900K.
Wow, okay.
So again, early on, I was like, oh wow, this is fascinating, this tech world, and always just figuring out things on the fly like that. Like constantly learning about this new environment, new scene to me. So yeah, we built that out over 3 years, and that went quite well. Like I said, we built out a good distribution line in using SEO, indexing over like 1 million products. So if you searched a random black Nike shoe, we would come up with a result, and then you'd obviously then buy it from ASOS or The Iconic. So that did pretty well, but I think it got to the point where we were capping as much as like where we could go from a distribution point of view. So we started to invest more time into influencers.
Yes.
And then influencers is what kind of helped us understand more about that world. And from that's when we decided to go, all right, cool. Well, we've started to see a lot of influencers that were doing really well and some were doing really bad. And we thought to ourselves, you know, that's super interesting. 100,000 followers. One would give us 10 sales. One would give us 100.
Yes.
So as curious as I always am, we've decided to go deeper into this and essentially build out some sort of like model to determine who the followers were following. So we would look at like your Instagram profile and say, okay, cool. This is Frank's profile. Yeah. He's got X amount of images. That determines he's going to be an actually decent follower. We looked at how many people you were following. Yes. So like if you had less following, you were more interested in that person that you're following. So we built out this, like that was like 2 data points. We built out like 1,000 data points to understand who you were.
Yeah.
Because then that determined who was following the influencer. And that naturally became more attractive to me, became more lucrative. And then I think in a period of like 1 year, we were able to put that into like a product and formalize that into some, like a platform, which allowed other brands to go and say, hey, cool, before I work with this influencer, I'm going to search them up and then determine how influential they actually are. And that was probably 10 times better than Phoenix, the comparison website. And
that's a really interesting pivot, man. Like, I have a question just before I want to dive into that, which is a prime example of someone listening today and hearing rugby league, clothing, then into tech. Like, what's the mindset that bridges the gap between the clothing and just the willingness to go, yeah, cool, I'll just dive into tech? Like, what was going through your mind? Were you nervous? Were you like, I'll just take a bet? Or like, how did you feel, or just feel like logical?
I think it was logical because I was so curious about it. And I think I like really just covered it up with, I just want to learn more about what could happen here. And what happens if I do this and go here? What do I look like there? What does it look like in my world then? Like how does it change? So it's just like, I guess, just being super curious and always open to just a little bit of an adventure. Like always choosing an option that I know will, get the best version of myself. So
that's cool.
That's where I sort of gravitate towards a lot.
Yes.
All the time.
So the takeaway there for everybody is like, that curiosity feels like the curiosity and the willingness to have an adventure feels more of a driver than, if I do this, I'm going to have a billion next to my name. I'm going to be on the Forbes rich list. Yeah. That's really interesting. And then that, I feel, naturally allows you to be willing to pivot because, again, you're following a curious crumb trail down the rabbit hole of wherever it's going to take you.
And it's crazy because sometimes I don't know how or why, but like I never would have woken up and thought I would build an influencer analytics platform that analyzes influencers. Like it's just not like, it's not like I woke up and it's like, that's what I'm doing. But I think it's just being very open in those certain moments. So like when you are in that moment, it's just being very, very aware of the insights that have been kind of chucked at you. And sometimes, you just gotta be very, I guess, open to receiving. Yes. And I think that's what I was always just, what I did in that whole process. Yeah.
And what happened there with that business? Like, so now it's clearly tracking better than the Phoenix Tech piece. Yeah. Did you double down? Did you close the other one? Like, how was that decision making?
Yeah. So I remember still saying to the investors, like, this is going to be 10 times better. So we're going to sunset Phoenix in terms of development, not closing it down. So we let that, it could run itself. So it really didn't need any kind of like extra hands. And we just, decided to focus purely on Lumio, which is what we call the new business. And this was cool because I guess this impacts the story later down the track, but this is where I started to work with Adam, my current co-founder. Cool. And he was young, came on as like a junior designer, like he was just exploring the world of design. But man, it was so cool because came on originally, I was like, just come on like as a 3-day-a-week thing. Didn't expect much of anything of that. But then we developed such a good relationship working together. And that was like 5, 6, 7 years ago now. So it was really cool to have had that experience, not only obviously building out Phoenix, but pivoting Phoenix into Lumio. And then, you're being in the war room with Adam at such an early age together. And to his credit, he was awesome as to like what he does. And I was able to sort of see like, man, that guy's brilliant at his way of thinking, and vice versa. He was able to see how I make decisions at a period of time. So that, I guess that's just a footnote. Like that was where I met Adam, and I think it was like one of the best things to come out of Lumio. But after that, so we pivoted into Lumio, and then that grew into something that was a lot bigger than I could ever imagine and expected. And we were lucky enough to get it's a very small space in the influencer marketing platforms, and we were lucky enough to get, I guess, headhunted by one of my friend now, but a German competitor, Robert, LinkedIn DM'd me. I thought it was spam at the time. And he said, "Do you want to be friends or competitors?"
Good question, Robert.
I was like, okay, Rob. Friends? What does that look like? What does that door take me to? And then that's when we got on the call, got on really well. But he was super interested in our tech, like that algorithm that we built.
Awesome.
And yeah, was really interested in acquiring us, the team, to integrate into it was called Influencer DB. And from that, I flew over and met him overseas in the US, and then we got on really well. He made an offer to acquire Lumio, which was really exciting. I think I was about, again, 5-6 years in after the clothing, the search comparison website, Lumio. And I thought this would just be a great opportunity to kind of, take this exit. It was enough to kind of like give me a nice little boost.
Can I get a little ballpark? A rough ballpark?
It's enough to like put into the mortgage to make it not as burdening as it should be. But not enough. It was perfect amount because it was enough to sort of say, not life changing. Like I've made it and have the Frank Reef mansion, but it's
Thanks for that.
I love this place, and it's a compliment. But it's not enough to like still make you hungry, right?
Yeah.
And be like, I want more. So
Yes.
it was that perfect amount. I was lucky enough to also go work overseas with him, and just learn from that. You know, I was learning in a team of like 50, 60, so a tech company. I was head of product there, so I was able to like just kind of really understand what happens at this level.
Yeah. And what was the key learnings that you learned from going there and working in that business and seeing that different scale?
I think what was really interesting is that if like still driving efficiencies even when you scale past, 10. So we were a team of 60 at the time. And I think what Robert...
When you got acquired, you were a team of 60?
No, we were 8.
Okay.
Influencer DB was 60. But so like I was going from 8 to 60 and I was able to now put my eyes in the lens of a bigger company.
Yes.
And from that I was... just able to kind of learn a lot more about how to run a company at a larger level. Robert was awesome enough to sort of like give me insight into like how he thinks.
Cool.
And from that, I was able to again take those learnings because it's something that you don't always get right as an opportunity. So yeah, worked in Germany for like over 1.5 years.
Awesome.
I think, back and forth.
Yeah,
it was 2 years total stint. And yeah, enjoyed obviously the opportunity of working in Europe. Like that's rare to just go overseas and work in another country. And then 2, just like, learn, rip in. This is what happens at a next level up.
Yeah.
And from that, I was just grateful for the whole experience.
That's awesome. So for the audience, I would love to, someone's hearing that, they're probably on the edge of the seat, kind of like I am, which is like, give me 2 examples of the learnings from a team of 8 to a team of 60. Like 2 things that come to your mind. You go, okay, that was a fundamental difference and something that maybe I wasn't doing and we would need to do on the next one.
Yeah. Like I think what I learned about that is like empowering, not having too much middle management. So what Robert did and implemented, which I've taken on till today, is like removing a lot of the middle part. So like product managers.
Yes.
So I was the head of product, but I was essentially in charge of, I think, like 10 developers, right?
Yes.
As an example. So he didn't need 3 or 4 product guys to manage, 3 engineers. So he was able to kind of like create a little bit more of a flatter hierarchy, which enabled us to kind of move a lot more quicker because there was less decision-making trees and people could just like make decisions on their own and kind of centralize decisions back to me. I can make the call. And in some instances, don't always have to also go to the CEO. So who was Robert. So like it was just enabled me to kind of understand, cool, like you don't need so many people to do good work.
Yes.
And that was a great learning. Well, obviously, we learned that because we're just like we didn't have enough resources in Lumio, so we had to do that. But it was also cool to see that you're able to actually still do that even if you go to a team of 60. Yeah,
that's awesome. And what would be the second thing?
I think the second thing that I learned was, I think not looking too much into your competitors. I think one thing that they did a good job is like knowing who they are, like obviously aware of their presence, but not being too fixed on exactly what they're doing, this campaign monitoring feature, exactly like how they do that exactly, not too focused on that, just kind of really honing in on who your persona is and solving for your current persona. And then that enables you to kind of build something that's obviously uniquely to you, but not be too distracted and like just copying exactly what everyone else has got.
And why do you think that's important? Like on reflection, thinking about, not fully focusing on your competitors, but I 100% agree with. Why do you think that, what benefit do you think that creates?
I think what it does is it it enables you to build, I think, a better product in the end, because you're really your only source of inspiration comes from the customers you're talking to.
Love that.
So if you're making that the primary source, so like 80% and let's say 20% on the, then you're going to build something that's better. Even like, sure, even in some instances, it could be very similar to your competitor. It doesn't matter. I only want the insights to be derived from the primary sources, which is the customer.
Yes.
And that is a very, I guess, key ingredient to making good product in the end.
Love that. I want to add an overlay. So that is exactly the right thing, what you're saying there with regards to not focusing on your competitor allows you to problem solve your customers, which ultimately is who you care about to drive revenue. But it also allows you to have an independent view and feedback loop around what's most important. So if you do look at your competitors and you do see that new feature that comes out, not knowing below the iceberg, not knowing actually, do people like this? Or is me as a product person, I get excited because that's a shiny toy. So you might go and copy and build the shiny toy and not realize that actually, even when they launched it, none of their customers used it.
Exactly.
So that's great. I love hearing that. Okay, so that fundamentally gets you now know that you've had a win. You've had a win. What then gets you to start, and how long does it take to start into the next venture, which I believe is going to be Relume?
Yeah. So next comes Relume. There was a lot of like little side quests here and there, like poking around on different things. But inevitably, I came back to Australia, said to Adam, let's do something again. We know how to build shit, and let's do it. And we went into the incubator called Antler to sort of see if we could force an idea out of ourselves. Yeah. Because what Antler do is that they invest. You go into this program, and you come up with an idea in that 8-week period, and then they invest in you if it's a good idea.
Yeah.
But some people do come with ideas. I recommend going with an idea. But if you don't have an idea, they still say come in and come up with one. Naturally, Adam and I didn't really come up with an idea in that 8-week period. Also, but nothing enough to like. We knew the grind. We knew what it was like to get to a real product with real insights. And so we kind of were very hesitant to just jump into straight into something without kind of really feeling and validating ourselves. So awesome experience at Antler. We actually met our future founding CTO Slater there. We didn't do any thing with him, but got along really well with him there. It was a great, really loved working with him in the sprints that we did. So we were able to make a good connection there, which we're going to revisit later. But yes, after that, Adam and I said, okay, cool. No, didn't really drive insights. We know that the key thing to driving good product is insights that only are very unique to you and only that you've sort of come up with. So we thought to ourselves that keeping to our skill sets.
That's actually really interesting. Do you know what else is interesting? The Eat with Purpose Cookbook. It's part of my mission to raise $1 million for charity. This podcast is a part of that goal, and what you can do is like, comment, share, and leave us a review. Let's get back to the guest.
We were really good at building landing pages for companies and for websites specifically. So we said, let's just go down that space of building websites as an agency for either for customers or startups. So very simple. Purely and simply, we just wanted to do it to get insights for either a startup that we worked with or get insights in the actual agency world itself.
I need to pause you. That's super interesting. So you knew that wasn't going to be the end state of the business you want to create. 100%. Like you knew you didn't want to go and become the website building company, but you decided to bridge the gap of I don't have an idea that's burning in my soul. However, if I go learn intimately around the knowledge of a particular industry, I'm sure our eyes are wide open will pop out.
100%.
Everybody who's listening, that is really interesting because I get these questions all the time, which is like, how do I know if it's the right idea? What's the right idea? When do I start? That's such a cool way to think about it, which is like learning that domain product knowledge and then really keeping your eyes open. Sorry.
Yeah,
very cool.
No. You're 100% right. And I've been obsessed with this over the last 2 years because like trying to like reverse engineer like what did I do right? And I think one of the best things and I started looking to other like also service-based other companies who actually started as a service-based industry. So Atlassian started as a support as a service, with their, and then obviously built a app around making that process better, which ended up becoming Jira. So like,
so cool.
These stories get me so G'd up. Like Linktree, digital agency, got frustrated with the single link bio because they were doing digital campaigns for companies, and then they said, "Cool, let's build this multi-bio thing for ourselves or for this client." So I actually did a post about this a couple of days ago because I've become obsessed with that. Like that actually is a really, really good way to just start a business. You get cash flow from the start because it's service based. You need zero upfront capital to start, and you're able to just generate cash flow. But most importantly, insights, and the beautiful insights that you get from this is something that no one else can get. And I think you will only get these true insights if you get your hands dirty.
Yes.
It's not reading about it and going, "Oh my God, that's what happens." Like if you've read about it, it's too late.
Yes.
So we're super intentional about it.
Cool.
Went into it and started that in August 2020, right after the middle of COVID,
nice.
Which is always interesting. But lucky enough, digital was booming then, so people wanted to invest in online. So we started that and built that out. And funny enough, in 6 months in, it wasn't living up to the expectations that we thought it would be. So we were this close to shutting down.
Wow.
Really. That was that close. I still remember the day. It was the end of December, that 6 months into starting Reloom as an agency. And Adam and I were just, we tapped out all our existing clientele, like friends of friends, like fully exhausted everyone. And we weren't generating new leads. So like we had to like not pay ourselves, and it was this shit. I was like, this is not really what I signed up for. We haven't got any insights.
Yeah, right.
Why the hell are we doing this? I hated agencies. Like at the time, I hated that work. Like it was making me really angry. And again, credit to Adam. He said, "Okay, cool. Let's just redesign this homepage, but just do it all in Webflow, and then we'll launch it on the Webflow community page."
Yes.
I was like, who gives a shit? All right, go redesign this website because everyone wants to see a new website right now. That's our biggest problem. Yeah. And I love him for it because he went away in that holiday break when I was just like contemplating life. And then, he built this incredible website in Webflow. And from that, we launched, he launched that in early Jan. That got on Webflow's showcase page.
Awesome.
That ended up getting us a ton of exposure. But not only did it get us leads for like actual agency website work, but it got us a really key insight into the fact that people love certain elements on a website. So he built this hover effect, Gaussian blur, which would move with your cursor. Yeah. And I started getting all these random emails about, hey, can you give us this? How did you do it? How did you do it? Hey, could you give us that component? Like, could you give us that? Sorry, give us that piece of that website. I'm like, wow, okay, 1, 2, 10, 15. Why do I want this stuff? Okay, cool. This is interesting. So we learned quickly, get leads. So we started to get more insights and website work. But then we also started to generate some insights that people genuinely care about components inside of Webflow, like building quicker. So,
and can I pause you there for 1 second for all of the non-aficionados that are listening? The idea behind a component is like you've got an entire website. The component is like an individual piece. Like you're talking about the cursing and moving of the cursor, or it might be a menu bar function. But they like the look and feel of that menu bar function. Back to
correct. Yeah, 100%. And so we started to release free clonables, which were essentially free components inside the community. And again, more uptake, people loved it. And so building websites, building this free resources and parallel to like the website industry. So what ended up happening is that after that year of 2021 till November 21, is that we learned quickly that we developed a component system that we're building websites really effectively for other clients, which was a wireframe, no style approach. And then B, everybody loves the efficiencies of using clonables inside of Webflow. So those two became like the collision.
Yes.
And that moment finally came. So I remember saying out and we remember talking to each other like, this is it. Like, this is what we came for.
Yeah.
So
can I pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
That is the power of the co-founder. Like what you just shared there, again, another question I get is like, do I go it alone? Do I go different? I love that moment in businesses, and it happens over and years will continue to happen. The power of the co-founder is the one person is down and feeling like ready to go, and the other person either has like a gut feel or like, let's go push. I was really lucky. It happened so many times with my brothers where, even during the deal, there was a moment where I was going to give up. And my brother said to me, Frank, you've got this, like push through. And it was like best thing that ever happened, right? So that is if you don't have a co-founder, it's like, who is that person in your camp that can help push you? But that is truly the power of the co-founder. And I'm sure you've done the reverse to Adam many times as well.
Oh yeah. You probably could speak to it. And I don't think Relume would exist if we didn't co-found it, to be honest. And obviously with Slater as well, who came on when we were leveling up on the tech side as well. I think, again, depends on your individual skill sets and what you're good at and what you're not good at. But I think, to me, co-founding it was like the best. Like, doing it with a co-founder was such an awesome experience because no one understands your trenches and your lows more than your co-founders. And you can explain to your partner, your wife, your husband, but even your friends. But I just don't think they genuinely really understand what you're going through. So it's really cool to have that person that just like is you pretty much. And you're talking to yourself. I love it. So that moment came and I took over the agency business, managed that, and then Adam went away and developed these component system and put it into like productized it. So we were able to now tap into all our product skills again, which was really cool. And after like 3-4 months, we launched it in November 21. And never looked back. That's when it was called the Relume library. Set of components for Webflow. And then in Jan 21, so a year and a half after we started Relume as an agency, we had a product. That was it. I was like, let's go. And that's when I went back to Slater. So, Slater, we've finally got something. This is not just an idea. There's a little bit of MRR behind this, but it's got
MRR. So define that for the audience.
Monthly recurring revenue. So it had runs on the board. It had proof that this was actually something people were willing to pay for. We went. Slater said, like, so happy. Yep, I'm in. So it was just the three of us in 2021, the start of the year, and we essentially built out that all for that whole year. We built out to a team of 5, so just 2 more people who came on board, and we just focused purely on that platform. We extended into another platform called Figma. So we built components for not only Webflow but for Figma, but we were just purely a component library for a period of time, and that was the primary focus. I think 6 months into 21, we stopped the agency work. So we were purely dependent and relied on the...
And what was that cutoff? So you stopped the agency work. Was there we're now going to forgo X number of revenue? Like, what was it to help the audience understand? It's still a decision and still like a money in the bank decision. What did that look like? I'd love to have some numbers if you're allowed to.
Yeah, look, on the agency side, it would be ranging from like, you could forego like 100K a month to 20K. Right? It fluctuated. I actually made a really good video about this to actually show my actual numbers on the agency side on YouTube. So I shared, like, this is what you get. It fluctuates. So it was ranging from between 30 to 80K. But we had a number that we needed to hit for salaries. It was around, I don't know, like let's say around 30K. Like, we needed to say we needed to hit that number in the MRR, in monthly recurring revenue. And if we were able to hit that target, then we're able to kind of cover ourselves and sort of say, cool, even if you like that rush, that 100K was nice, but man, there was a lot of like legwork and brain that had to go into like getting that 100 grand actually in your bank account. So I remember there's no brainer. Like, I didn't even care about if we could make 500 grand. I have no interest in that type of revenue because I'd like to have the ability to just put single focus all into a product which could scale to thousands of people instead of just 5 to 10 people in the agency. But look, I love that period of time because it taught me so much about who our persona is and who we continue to build for. So I'm always incredibly grateful for our agency heritage, but I'm really more excited to I was more excited to turn that off and focus purely on the product side.
So, and just really want to contextualize that for everybody, because it's a pivotal moment, and the way you speak about it is with absolute enthusiasm and conviction, which I love, right? But there'll be so many people who might have that in their business today, which is like you're making a decision which is anywhere from $300 to $1 million worth of recurring revenue a year, and you're making a decision based on, if I change this, I believe that the other side is going to be better. Yeah. And it's paid off. And I guess the question I would have is like, what was the single data point or the data points that you went, this is why I believe, apart from maybe that the scale piece is like, why did you make that big bet and go, this is the way?
I think it was a combination of like qualitative feedback, like people were genuinely talking a lot about it on our socials and giving us such positive feedback in our Slack community.
Awesome.
So we built up a Slack community that were like constantly, excited about what we're doing in any release that we're doing, and also the growth. So like looking at the growth over from Jan 20, when we launched it, 22 to like midway through 2022, it was significant enough to say something's happening.
Yeah.
Like like the writing's on the wall. It's very obvious that if you're compounding like whatever it was, like 15, 20, or I think 30% a month.
Yeah.
In those early stages when you like started from 1,000 to whatever, like that's worth putting more time into. So I think, combination of growth rate and also just general feedback. And we weren't actually doing ads. So the fact that we weren't like promoting ourselves in any type of ad meant the word of mouth was good. So that growth came from word of mouth, which meant you had good product market fit.
Yeah, awesome. And the reason to do it was around the singular focus. By having a singular focus on the new thing, you knew that you could then propel that far further.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's just like the key thing, especially when you've got 5 people. If you have 1 or 2, that's 40% of your workforce not looking at what is making majority of your money. So, or not wasn't making the majority, but like could make the majority of your money. So it's just, I think that focus is so necessary, and it's even more compounded with the smaller you are.
Yeah, love that. Was there a moment there where then you went, hey, we want to get private equity, we want to get funding? Or was that the beauty of doing that services-based business that allowed you to cash flow it yourself?
Yeah, we're so lucky enough to just have compounded all that agency money to be like us. So Relume agency was the seed investor into the Relume library.
Yes.
So yeah, we were lucky to have cash in the bank, but also, like I said, I made the conscious decision of making sure that on a monthly basis we weren't going backwards. So like the MRR was covering the salaries.
Yes.
So we'll cash flow neutral or positive from the start. So cash in bank, infinite runway. Long runway, which meant that didn't really have to, or like didn't really consider raising or like looking into any VC.
Yeah,
I had the experience before too, right? And I didn't want to. Also, if you know you're onto something good, don't give away early.
Love that. So now I know that there was an additional pivot from that component library, because we touched on right at the beginning. You said you used the 2024 magic word AI and changing it into prompts. As you're growing and you're seeing this in front of you and things are working, like what then pushes you to go, let's pivot again, like, or let's add some extra juice because things are going so well. A lot of people fall into that trap of it's doing well, so don't break what's working.
Yeah, I think it just comes back to the curiosity thing, right? We're just insanely interested as to like, what could this do to us?
Yes.
Like if we get this and had this, it could be like this. So like, it's that insane curiosity to know. One, it was definitely going to be a thing. So at the end of 22, start of 23, we knew that AI was going to be definitely a contributing factor to, especially design. Like I think it's coming for, it has the most impact in the design world. So yeah, naturally we're all really curious about it, but also interested to see how it could not only just be like an AI web builder, because I think there's a lot of them out there, but how we could leverage what we've already built with the AI to make it even better. So I think we were lucky enough and privileged to be in a position to have this significant component library of like over 1,000 components that we built over time, which was very unique to us. And only Relume really kind of had that advantage at the time. So that's when we were able to say, okay, cool. Well, if we can make these small bets with AI, we believe in the long term, we're able to leverage AI to significantly improve the way that designers put together our components.
Yes.
So it wasn't necessarily looking at AI, like just use AI and let's just make something AI.
Yeah.
It was more, how do we improve the process, or like, how do we make it a feature inside of Reloom?
Yes.
So we will like to, so what we do at Reloom, we like to take small bets
Yep.
and not necessarily like extend ourselves for like 6 months and say release. So
Yes.
we do 4-week bets and release something every month. So what we did was like, okay, cool, let's play with this. And we started off firstly by releasing a tool called Relume Ipsum, which was like an AI tool which generated copy
Yep.
on your Figma wireframes.
Cool.
So cool, tick. Learned about how to use and work with AI. Released that in 4 weeks, pushed that out, got some good early traction and early signs of like, cool, people, like obviously interested, but most importantly, I just wanted to ship something with AI. I didn't care whether or not people wanted to actually use it. It was a hunch on obviously they wanted to, but didn't care so much about being the thing. But then when we then looked back into our, it's called our job to be done. So essentially we've got this whole persona board of knowing the agency from 0 to 1, knowing how they do this, how they do this, and how they do this. So we knew and we know that from concept to wireframing stage, we've got a very good understanding of that process through the Relume library as components. But we knew that if we were able to use AI to help them generate a sitemap, which essentially is like the precursor before a wireframe, we would be able to leverage AI to help generate a sitemap. And then that sitemap would, come up with sections for a homepage, about us, and a contact us page. But then we're able to then map back those sections to an actual component that we've got.
Yes.
So essentially you're able to just actually create a real website, not a gimmick website that leverage our components. So like, that's it. I remember we had a hackathon. We did it over like a 2-week period of like tinkering around with different ideas. And that's what kind of like bubbled up. So again, kept our bets small. We released a sitemap builder first. No conversion to wireframes in May. And then we let this bet go a little bit longer than we should have, but we let it go for two cycles, so 8 weeks. And then in August, that's when we launched the AI website builder, which essentially was mapping the sitemap back to wireframes and pretty much built out what the evolution of what Relume is today. And what's really cool is that it hasn't really been necessarily a pivot. It's been a beautiful compound of things that we have built before to be able to do what we are able to do today. And I'm a big believer in that, like in any type of instance of companies, like doing things that are unique to yourself and leveraging that is super powerful, and looking inward to see what you've got. I think that's what enabled us to get really good traction in the first August 23 to now. Yeah. Like we were able to double our user
from that launch
in 2 months. So like it was definitely like we tapped on the right, hit the right thing in terms of product market fit. So yeah, that really kind of excited us to just say this is the new version of Relume, and that really was pretty exciting, because like it's been an interesting journey till now, and I know it's just probably going to be even 1,000 times harder in the future. But it's pretty cool now to sort of like say like this is who we are. We're now a platform.
Yes.
And everything that we built till today has kind of enabled us to be in this position. And yeah, it's interesting to see what comes next.
You know what, Dan? I've been frothing over this chat. Yes, I use the word frothing, team. I've been absolutely frothing over this chat for the particular reason, which is, I've had some incredible guests on that I'm very thankful for, and some of them, their stories are so big and so large. Take an example, selling a business for $1 billion, David Sheen, in the year 2000. That's so many steps away from so many people who might be thinking about starting a business tomorrow that it almost feels unattainable. It's inspirational, but the feeling is almost unattainable. Your story, the key difference is you've had this journey prior, but you're right in the thick of it. Like when I was thinking about it today, I was like, it's so fun to have you on today, because it's not like here is my story and it's been written. It's like it's getting written right now. It's getting like it feels like things have just we just talked about that double only late last year. It's like it's getting written in this moment. The team probably back in Reloom base is like it's gone up an extra 10% since we started talking. So I love it, and I think it's really exciting because I wanted for the audience today is like to really connect the dots to be like, hey, I can do it. This is a short time trajectory, but it's so attainable, and I think that's awesome. But I would love for everybody to hear. There was one more part that I wanted to share with this story, which is there was a moment last year where I kind of connected, and people started to approach you to go, hey, there's a potential buyout. Share with me.
Yeah, like that was extremely interesting. So we were able to get really, like I said, really good growth since launching in August 20, and we had a few offers that came through, which, as you can imagine, really starts to play with your head.
Yeah.
Right? And it starts to play in your mind in ways where you start to question things in a different angle. Once there's once there's an offer on the line.
Can you share with the audience the like numbers, ranging?
Ranging from about 25 to 35 mil.
Okay.
So it's definitely going to change your life.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not going to sit here and say like that will, like 100%. That amount could just, that's it. I'm done. Like in the sense of like, I don't know. Yeah. Like you've won, I guess, going above average.
Yes.
So it played heavily on our minds. And I still remember like just going back and forth with Adam and Slater on this, but I think inevitably we said no to all of them. And I think at the same time, as scary as it was to sort of like turn something like that down, it is so freaking motivating to know like objectively I did that. Like I look back and say, wow, actually like I did that. Like that's actually something I considered and we did. So it's one, motivating for the team because I obviously know that, and it's two, it's motivating for people to join and work with Reloom because like we're in I told you from the start, I'd like money makes a difference. It does, and I don't want to say like many means like it won't change your life, and it will massively make a huge difference. But I'm again more obsessed with chasing really good adventures and being the best version of myself. At that current time, when that offer came through, all those offers came through, I don't think I was at the peak mindset of what we could have been, like Adam, myself, and Slater. I think there are so many more things we've got to learn, like running a company, hiring people. I want to get those reps in. I want to know what that feels like. I want to feel that pain of like this. Like I want to suffer a little bit more. Like I don't want the suffering to end, but it's not like I'm suffering that much. But I genuinely just really enjoy the job. I get paid a salary. It covers my rent and mortgage or whatever. So like I'm okay. Like I can eat. So, but two, like I just genuinely love going in, having this chessboard every single day, 3D chess, and just like understanding what moves I can make and then what moves we can make, what that actually does and results in. And that's so fascinating to me as just a concept. Like I make some actions now because I have scale and volume. It actually can move some stuff and then I can see the impact. And because of the volume, I get to like actually make something, I actually can visually see a result in, a month's time. So that to me is kind of like, I can't turn that down. That just me talking about it now gets me so excited.
I love that so much. It's something really interesting, right? And something you see from high performers that often at the end of, let's say, their career in sports or selling their business, they then sit there and get to reflect, actually, it was the process I love. What I love about this conversation and you is like, you didn't even need that to happen. You got the offer, which is like amazing and so cool. But you already know that. You already know the process is there. And I think that's really encouraging and inspiring to a lot of people listening because you're living and breathing this, you hear it all the time, which is like, hey, someone has that huge sale and it's like, hey, the money wasn't money wasn't the thing I was chasing. And people might not be able to connect that because like, yeah, you're saying that now that you got the cash in bank. You had that opportunity for the cash in the bank, and you're still going, no, I prefer this, and I don't want to lose this team and this drive and this ambition. I think it's really cool.
Thank you, Frank. It's definitely motivating. Like, we'll know in hindsight, it was a good decision. But like, I'm willing to take that bet to know that I'm confident. I just know that regardless of any scenario, I'm going to figure it out and come back up. I've done too many things over my period of time to not know how to come back again. So like, it's just a matter of riding with it and seeing what happens. But I think, most importantly, just focusing on being me, my best version of me every single freaking day. Yeah. And that will get me the best outcome in the end, I believe.
Love that. Now, I want to play devil's advocate because the audience might be listening. Let's pretend the world doesn't go the way you're planning. Right? And I want you to really think about this and feel it. It's 2 years from today, and whatever happens, and the business does disappear and it has to be closed down. Like, how will that feel knowing that you passed on that offer?
If I were to actually I'd be probably very disappointed. Yes. But there's something in me that thinks that I will have, at that time, before it died, figured it out another way.
Yes.
I'm a cockroach, man. I just keep coming back. You can't kill me. So like, I could imagine being disappointed, but I don't think there's not going to be a lot of opportunity for me to get to that place again. I think I'm a big believer in a lot of confidence in my ability to do it again. So if that were to happen, I think I'd bounce back and definitely, just figure it out.
Love that. And I apologize for playing that devil's advocate. I never do it in real life, but people might be thinking about it. And I think the mindset there is the most important piece. That piece you just shared, I think about it sometimes as an entrepreneur. You have to have a healthy amount of confidence. And this next word, don't think I'm putting it on you, but for me, it was a healthy amount of being delusional. So for us, like, we would talk about, one day when the business is worth this many millions, but we were doing $1,000 a week in revenue. And like, if you were to put yourself in that conversation with me and my brothers, you'd be like, you guys are delusional, but it's just a healthy amount.
I 100% agree. I think I have it in another, I say like extreme optimism.
Yes.
Just extremely optimistic in every single scenario. And I think that extreme optimism allows, it probably crosses over to delusional. It does, but I think like, doesn't matter. Like, what else are you going to think? You can think the other way, but like, that doesn't get you anywhere. Doesn't get you anywhere anyway. So just might as well stick to being optimistic.
That's good. Hey, I've got 2 more questions for you, Dan. One is a selfish question. So I ask every guest, I start through the conversation, I start to piece together like those key elements of your skill set. And then I ask you a question with regards to Eat With Purpose, the cookbook I'm writing. And so it's essentially trying to get your brain how you might solve the problem that I'm going through. And it's not necessarily a problem, but the goal to raise $1 million through selling, all those cookbooks. So my question for you is, I see the key things that I've learned from you today is around the curiosity, the willingness to find those insights and adapt, and loving an adventure. So my question is, thinking about you as a whole and thinking about the journey that I'm on to go and sell those cookbooks is like, what's something I might not be thinking about today that you would go and solve for in order to get to that goal?
Oh, look, I think I would, to be honest, I would be focusing on distribution, I guess, in a way that is a little bit different than probably your traditional ways. I don't know.
Explain that to me.
For example, there are like different ways of, like, you've got your traditional ways of like saying influencer marketing, doing a podcast, but when like back in the Phoenix day, I thought of like the concept of putting a retail store up, which wasn't like, it's kind of like the way that I would have thought about it traditionally. It'd be something along the lines of finding out like the ways of, distribution through Amazon or distribution through like a partnership.
Yes.
That's actually the one I've got. It's the one I love is doing. I was obsessed with this before, like doing partnerships with Eat With Purpose by Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Gordon Ramsay edition and all. Gordon Ramsay's got like some things in it that he does or whatever. But the point is, I always was obsessed with tapping into someone's reach, because then I get instant distribution, but also credibility. And if it's Gordon Ramsay pushing it, he's got millions and millions of followers, right? So incentivizing Gordon enough to be interested for some reason to distribute and put his name or thinking behind it. And then that's how I go try find 10 Gordons.
Yes.
Curtis, who's the other one? Curtis
Stone.
Stone. Yeah. So just try to find those guys. And I love creative, or just like hunting down different angles of distribution.
Love that. That's really cool. And you know what? It's a great way to see you, that you're thinking so big and straight to Gordon Ramsay. 100%. I love that. Hey, last question for you, Dan. We're writing the story still today. You know, we're at the start of it, but it's always good to reflect. And so the question I have for you is, up until this moment in time, you're sitting on this chair, what are you most proud of?
Survived. Like, honestly, having not been wiped out, and I've been able to choose what I've been able to do for 12 years since uni. So I think that's something I'm most proud about, that I've just survived regardless of like external pressures of doing 1, 2, 3 or X, Y, Z. Like, I was able to just be relentless in just doing what I wanted to do and not allowing anything or any factors change me. And I think that's what I'm thankful to me that I haven't wavered. I'm still the same delusional, stubborn, optimistic guy that started selling clothes out of the back of a car. So like, I love that. And I don't think I'll ever change.
Good, man. Dan, thank you so much. Appreciate it.